So one of the things that we start class with every single time is how disappointed I am in every presentation AI tool. So I have rotated, I think, about 12 times different tools because I think for everybody, we all have to do some kind of presentation, and we probably are still doing some PowerPoint, different tools and stuff like that. And a lot of the new, especially in Claude, and we'll get to that a little bit later. There's so many different tools out there for generating presentations. And honestly, they're all pretty mediocre. So we're going to kick it off with Kimi. So Kimi.com is not suggested for those of you who are in secure businesses. It is a Chinese company. It's technically a Singaporean company via China. But there are hosted Kimi models for US servers, meaning it is an open source model that is hosted in the US. It is probably 90% of what Claude can do, but 50 times less the cost. So in many, many cases, I think a lot of people ask me, it's like, so what model are you using for what? Um, and we'll talk about OpenClaw, some other fun tools that we'll get into a little bit later. But Kimi is really, really cheap, and it's pretty good for most projects. So I'm going to show you the presentation that I generated using Kimi. So this is the prompt. And like I said, I try to do it as simple, stupid as possible, that anybody could do a prompt like this. So if you read the prompt, it's pretty straightforward. It's the stuff that we're going to cover today. And it took about a minute or two to generate this presentation. And they have two modes, and we'll show both modes for Kimi. So if you see here, this is more of like their professional looking presentation. I think they've copied a little bit about what Claude does in their presentations. So I'll just go through it so you get a flavor of how they do their slides. So the one thing I don't like is, very small font. And there's just a lot of information. And as you kind of go through the presentation, it's just an overwhelming amount of information that they've put on each one of the slides. Um, and, you can see a little bit here, like they've got the alignments off a little bit. There's not a lot of icons that are, really stunning. I wouldn't say this is a very impressive presentation tool. But, it's got the layout, it's got the format. And like I said, I think it's 90% of what Claude can do for you with 50x less cost. So for those of you who do a lot or have a company where you have a lot of employees that are using a lot of these models, like I said, Kimi K2.5 is a hosted model, meaning you can download it. Your company can host it, or you can use a US-based hosting solution. So it's really, really cost effective if you're trying to have a large number of people, and cost of AI models is very expensive. The other presentation mode that they had, I put the exact same prompt, and they have a visual style of doing presentations generated. So I'm telling you, it's the identical prompt that you saw before. It's just, this is a visual tool that Kimi has versus more of a text, more formal view. So again, in my opinion, it's got an overwhelming amount of information per slide. If you've used Notebook LM, it has that kind of feel to the way that they've generated the presentation. I do like the visuals. I think that if you're trying to do more of an educational type of PowerPoint presentation that has a lot of information, you're trying to get people to go through it, it did a pretty good job from that standpoint. But again, I think best practices around presentation is less is more. And these seem like what they've automatically generated is just an incredible amount of information that they're putting on each one of the slides. I'll rate it as one of the top ones. If you've seen Claude, it's a very clean design style, and I think they've done a much better job, and they're getting better at presentations. But this is the only tool that I've seen that can switch between more of a formal presentation and a complete visual presentation when you're using AI to generate presentation materials.